In Washington and state legislatures deny the right to vote and undermine our democracy, we do something here in New York. We pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I'm so glad to be back at this college, especially as we celebrate Juneteenth, as we know the history. We know the history. I marched in what is claimed to be the largest Juneteenth parade in America after Texas. That would be in Buffalo, believe it or not. Got to do a little catching up here in Brooklyn. We got to do a little more, but Buffalo is the largest. We marched there. I was with Letitia James and many others who came together to acknowledge that that is a community still in great pain. After the Buffalo shooting, people wore T-shirts that were stamp out white supremacy. It's a shame that we have to do that in this era, but I was so proud to march with them. But we talked about what this day meant. And in their honor, I wear this because it says "Choose Life," and it's got a little buffalo on it. Some of the family members who lost loved ones want me to wear this. But on this day, it was supposed to be a day of liberation for enslaved people 157 years ago. Supposed to be. Because since that time, the journey has been long, it's been hard. As I mentioned, blood has been spilled along the way. But we never give up. We never give up because we stand on the shoulders of those who marched before us. And today, we're going to make a significant step to honor those individuals. And we think about McGregor as he was trying to vote in 1946 when a gang of white men surrounded him at the courthouse. And they stopped him from casting his vote. That had to be so dehumanizing for that young man who just wanted to do what he thought was his inalienable right as an American citizen, and he had to be prevented from that. But he would not be deterred. For 2 more decades, he fought on. He spent long days and nights trying to fight for a more equal, a more just, more righteous America, fighting against racism, segregation. But ultimately, he was killed by a white supremacist, 1963. So that hate that we're experiencing now was prevalent then and literally for centuries before that. So we continue that fight, and we won't stop here. This is New York State. And I'm going to give you a little more history, too, because I'm very proud when I see Hazel Dukes, that the genesis of the NAACP was in our state. It started up where I come from, the Niagara movement. There are monuments and tributes to people who helped create that Underground Railroad passage that came through Buffalo to give people freedom, as many of them found their way over to Canada. That's a story we honor and talk about with great frequency. But as Medgar Evers knew, there's so many fights to be had, and one of them is protecting the right to vote, because our democracy only works if everyone who's eligible can participate in it, and that the rights of the voters are respected. Something we're seeing under assault in our nation's capital every single day in the news. The shocking revelation that there are people out there who are so firm in their belief that Donald Trump should remain their president, fostered by him, that they literally attacked our Capitol for the first time since it was attacked during the War of 1812. That is going to be a mark on our state, our community, our nation forever. People always talk about the attack, I think it was 1814, literally horses crashed through. And then 2021. But also, there are people out there willing to undermine our elections by taking over the Capitol. There's also those who do it day after day and trying to be a little more quiet about it. In state capitals, a little more sinister, a little more under some of the boards of elections. And they are out there trying to do the same thing, to strip away the right that Medgar Evers was also denied. They don't care that the laws have changed. And when we see what's happening in the Supreme Court in Washington, it's kind of a reminder sometimes the laws you have on the books just aren't enough. So then you look to your state leaders, your state legislators, and say, we are going to make the changes we need. So across the country, we're seeing stricter voter ID laws, shorter early voting periods, and more burdens when you're trying to just vote by mail. We're seeing people purged on voter rolls. We're seeing attacks play out in real time. And in Washington, they had the opportunity to do something that was significant, to name a package of reforms that say no more, named after civil rights icon John Lewis. John Lewis. I heard John Lewis speak at my daughter's college graduation at a Virginia college in 2011. He had those young people screaming his name, standing on their feet, cheering like I've never seen before. It was so inspiring as he talked about what he did when he was their age. He called this generation to serve and to fight back, and they were so enthralled with him. And literally 2 weeks later, I won an election I wasn't expected to win, and I took my seat, and I went over. After being sworn in, I went over to John Lewis. I said, "You do not know the impact you had on this group of a lot of white kids in the audience. You made them believe. You opened their eyes to something perhaps they were not aware of. They needed to hear your voice, John Lewis. And thank you for doing what you did." And he became a great friend of mine when we served together in Congress. He was powerful. And I know our delegation in Washington, Yvette Clarke and all the others, they're standing up and fighting. They're trying to get it done. They're trying so hard, and I admire that. But the assaults from the Republicans, the roadblocks seem to be never-ending. But here, in our state, we are not bystanders. We are upstanders. We're going to stand up to these injustices. We'll let them know how we treat this in New York. We don't just say something, we do something, because that's what John Lewis called us to do. He fought for justice, he fought for the right to vote until the very day he died. And in a final message to our country, he wrote, "Democracy is not a state. Democracy is an act, and each generation must do its part." My friends, today we're acting. We're acting. We're demonstrating to the rest of the nation what they can be doing in state capitals when Washington refuses to act. The state legislatures, the state leaders, they have the power to stand up. And so we honor these individuals. And we are going to pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York State to make sure that our election laws improve the voting process and protect our voters. We're going to fight back against voter suppression, voter dilution, intimidation, deception, and obstruction. We're providing more language assistance. If you can't understand the language that your ballot's in, how can you possibly vote? We are changing that as well. And we're going to change our election laws so we no longer hurt minority communities. We're going to say, we said we're going to get it done. We did this before. We did early voting, and I hope everybody's gotten their early vote in. It's a lot easier. I did mine on Saturday. Get your early votes in. Tell everybody. We've added polling sites to college campuses, and we've restored the right to vote. But today's legislation will not be the last. We'll always find where there's cracks, where there's not perfection, when we can look at our laws and say, let's fix them and make them even stronger. That's what the elected leadership does with the support of advocates who find these deficiencies and bring them to our attention. So, as always, when the federal government fails to act, you can count on New York to punch back and fight even harder. We will not rest. We will not rest while these injustices continue. As I said, we did it with abortion, we did it with reproductive freedom, we did it with gun legislation, and now we're doing it again with voting rights. So we honor Juneteenth, we honor Meg Rivers, we honor John Lewis, but we're not looking backwards any longer. We'll continue to right the wrongs of the past, but let's create a future we don't have to do that any longer, so our children and their children don't have to look at our generation and say they're going to right the wrongs of our past. We have the power in our hands. The question is, will we use it? The answer is today, we are. And that's why I'm so proud to be here to sign this landmark legislation. No state in the nation, you hear this a lot, no state in the nation has stood up with the courage and the conviction and the power that we have by protecting these important rights. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here today. And with that, let me introduce my great partner in government, our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is great to be here. We were going to do it in Westchester. Is Westchester in the house? All right. But, yeah, okay. But we're sort of kind of here. Come on. Come on. That's right. Thank you, Hazel. Okay, because I know I'm in Brooklyn. So I had to make sure I had to make sure that I have my passport and everybody. But listen, the idea that, the governor promised the great Dr. Dukes that we would sign this wherever she wanted it signed was not only important, but exemplary because we understand the power of what the NAACP has represented to all of us in your leadership, Dr. Dukes. I'm so happy to be here because I've got a governor who, and I tell her all the time, I'm tired of getting these pens for things that we should not have to be passing. I mean, why am I doing this? I want to get pens for innovative things. I want to get pens for leading us into a smart, progressive, and equal future, but we keep having to go back. But I'm so grateful that we have a governor that is willing to do the hard things, and that I have a legislative partner in the Assembly Speaker, Hasty, so that it used to be that they would do things in the Assembly and the Senate would just sit on it. I think Congresswoman Clark, you know what that feels like? Yeah, that used to be what happened in the state as well. But now there's a partnership, and we are able to pass things together that make a difference. And I want to shout out certainly my Senate colleagues who are here, Senator Prasad, Senator Comrie, and of course, Mahan. And of course, my great elections chair, your own Senator Zelnor Myring. And of course, his partner in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker. See if you, all I got to do is say Brooklyn names, right? So I also want to acknowledge Governor Patterson. It was his bold idea that I should run for the Senate back in 2004. And when the governor mentioned that she won an election she shouldn't have won, I lost an election that I shouldn't have lost. I lost by 18 votes in the most hotly contested race in state history. In February of the following year, they told me I lost by 18 votes. But it wasn't just a loss. It was a loss that even the Times wrote an editorial about. They said in a gym in Yonkers, the game was block the vote, because people were questioning people in my community as they tried to cast their vote. That was only after they had purged the voting rolls a few weeks earlier, only after they had moved polling sites, only after people had come in uniform to new registered doors to ask whether they had really registered. I'm talking about Yonkers. I'm talking about New York. So as we do this incredible legislation, and certainly I thank our advocates who you will hear represented here for helping us to do the most progressive and expansive voting rights laws in the country. As we do this, I want you to know that New York State is an example of even some of these things that we've seen in the deepest, deepest South. Nobody is exempt from trying to fight against those powers that would bring us back. And to that end, just this morning, I was brought to my attention with sleeping. The Texas Republican platform, just think about this. The Texas Republican platform decided this morning that their election platform would be to repeal the 1965 Voting Rights Act. To repeal it in Texas. The same place where the celebration of Juneteenth began is the same place that they've decided that voting is no longer convenient. The fight that Medgar Evers waged, and I really thank you, Dr. Ramsey, for welcoming us here. The fight that he waged, and I think he was 37 when he died. Think about that. The fight that he waged, that we stand here in honor of, the fight that John Lewis waged, is a fight that clearly we will have to continue to wage, along with the fights that we are getting pens for and mobilizing for. But let us continue to be a model, to be an example, to be relentless, fearless, and tireless, because in New York, we lead. And hopefully, our leadership will resonate so loud that the rest of the nation will follow, because it must. Because it must. So thank you so much. I can't wait to sign this bill. And guess what? I don't mind if I have to stand here and get another pen for something I don't want to do, because I know that if we don't, no one will. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the podium Dr. Hazel Dukes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Westchester. I'm from Niagara Falls. I'm from Buffalo. I'm from Freeport Roosevelt. I'm from Queens. I'm from Eastern Long Island. This is your girl. To the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul, and they said, how do you know her? I met her when she was in Congress. From upstate. But I love Buffalo. Got a great branch there. Reverend Blue is leading us in that area. I was there for several days with him, walking the streets. I told my brother at his nephew graduation what was going to happen today, Governor Patterson. He said, sis, I want to go with you. Means so much. I bring greetings from the Evers family. Merle and I were born in March. I'm the 17th, and she's the 16th. Medgar gave his life. We don't talk about it enough in history. But when I heard that this bill was going to be signed, my sister, our leader, Andrew Stewart's cousin, had asked for it to be in her district. And I said, well, I'm not going to fight about who district, because it's going to be signed. The bill's going to be signed. But I said, I don't live in Brooklyn, but two of the giants that weathered the storm, that was beat over the head, L. Joy worried y'all to death. She worried me to death. On Memorial Day, I couldn't even eat my barbecue. She had me speaking to the speaker, to the leader. Leader took my call on a Sunday, around 11:30 in the morning. L. Joy worried my hair off of my head. Thank you, L. Joy. And my NAACP sent so many emails. Tell the speaker, Carl Hasty, said, call him off, call him off, call him off, call him off. We're going to get this done. Donna Lieberman, thank you for your, and my brother over there, Nan, these are all my posses. When I go, they go. When I say we going, they say, okay, how fast? And I said, well, I got to speak to the leader first. To the president of this great college. It's emotional for me today. I walked behind that casket with Merle and her children. She stood and fought until she got justice for the killer. Took her many years. A woman of strength and courage. And so today, with the first woman who is the leader of this state, I'm glad to receive my pen. When they put me in that casket and it's all done, I want that pen in with me. Because I want it to be known. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living will not be in vain. So today, New Yorkers, all across this country, we're going to stamp out hate. Am I right, Reverend? Did I see Reverend Miller over there? My pastor's Reverend Waldman. We're going to stamp out hate. We're just not going to talk about when we get to heaven. We're going to have heaven here on earth. We're going to have it with this great leadership of men and women that we have sent to Albany to be partnership with the governor. No more fighting. No more discord. It's about our children, the next generation. As I worked all day with our assemblywoman at Ron McNear School on Friday, we inducted 60, 70 young people into the NAACP. My ambassador here, my ambassador, will you stand up, please? That's my ambassador over there. I want you to shake the governor's hand before you leave, because they got to know you the ambassador. You coming behind me. They got another little Hazel on their hand. They can't get away from Hazel. I'm rearing them as I go. But this is a great day for New York State. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm talking about the law. Where's El Morel? Where is she? Stand up. This woman here. Favor, stand up. Your successor. These are the people here in Brooklyn. Yeah. Yeah, give it to her. She's retired now. I'm not retiring. I don't know why you retired. I'm gonna stay here and raise hell myself. I'm gonna stay here and raise holy hell. I ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna stay in this fight. But I want to thank our leadership. Young man, Zelma. Young brother. Young brother. You just didn't go to Albany to be in Albany. You went to Albany to do some work, and I'm proud of you. And Latrice Walker, she came from good stock. She came from the Clarks. Now me and Mama, stand up, Mama Clark. This is why we are here today, Governor, because these women, you stand on their shoulders. They've been here, they've done the work quietly, but they're here and now they've raised another generation to work with you as you lead this great state. I'm honored and humbled to call you my friend, your mother, and your governor. Thank you so much for all you do.
Please welcome to the podium State Senator Zelnor Myrie.
Dr. Dukes got me snot-nosed up here. Happy Juneteenth. Let me start by recognizing the woman who is the reason that I'm standing up here. My first vote ever, I took with my mom. So, Mommy, if you stand up, please. It is a good day to be in Brooklyn. It is a good day to be in the 20th Senate District. Welcome to all of you. And there are too many people to thank. I want to just give a very special shout out to Elle Joy and Perry Grossman. Who just did incredible work for us to be here today. And it is an honor for me to be here on Juneteenth as we are celebrating emancipation and liberation and freedom for our people. And throughout this country's history, that emancipation and that freedom and that liberation has been a threat to the power in this country. And the only thing that could match the inhumanity and the brutality of human enslavement were the subsequent efforts to keep us in bondage by every other means. We're celebrating Juneteenth, 1865. It wasn't until 100 years later that the Federal Voting Rights Act was passed. 100 years later.
That time for the Supreme Court to years when the vote it was only 8 years after that name of a big lie. After that, where legislatures across the country number 48 one because our democracy online greater speed. Okay. Juneteenth. The attack. right now, democracy. And if that we want the when in every state, your vote has been. If you have if you're if you can't like if you understand the balance to get to we got isn't a southern problem. Republican control. And that again up for showing my leader who like this assembly finish line in the other half. Thank you. I said it is I'm out here. We do. So make sure you do. God bless. Thank you, everyone. Please. Wow. Wow. Whew. Out of Brooklyn. You're telling me that say I'm say Brooklyn. And we never too excited I am that will ensure ballot in New York. One of to make it of any state in America. It was the very we on for civil rights. Sigma man made a sorority in court. Congressman John joining my like of course the yes. And the New York you eyes on prize. We even the right to attack color. Even as Congress if fought the good fight. Governor Hochul moment repeatedly the power to expand access to rights that existed as we existed. And we thought that the Constitution no New York. Just my good alone. Of course, also Senator, I went to SUNY Purchase, New York, so I I'll claim a little too I hate sense. The speaker, as speaker of the state of Senate, he was seeing the issues that he was advanced. Continue to be. He continues to make him so that he realized that to do the right. Yeah, the one in the took a move back through the when most people just because it'll never have to, but if that I say thank you who's sitting John Flack. About these two how and I also of a civil rights the greatest honors with her as she was walking of the United States Supreme Court. He watched as she and know that there was a who had one and he sat in his chair with his and out the Section 5 was gutted. And I was and so again to our icon of Dr. And you provided to this the associate center and common wings soar with continue fairness state and community in no other place can't somebody know what I'm talking ownership, failure to practices. We have discrimination to voting rights, language assistance who attempt to deceive, restrict their access to the ballot. So today, on this Juneteenth, our freedom. But we know the teachers that slavery was abolished, except punishment. So to the criminal are a in the truth of the word particular. Each have to that again is movement. The work of the who came before us. Amadou, he sent the mission. Trying to agitate, who litigate. We were realizing that to not the bless the great New York. Heights. So, when it is a pleasure, with allies to defend rights. Today for defining historic pieces of legislation. More than sex, black, other marginalized and the constitutional vote. Rights discriminatory or all voters, every unfettered access to use the electoral process. Meaningful expansion for more voters, not as communities become more diverse for voters. Full the fight continues. Democracy that represents all people. On New York, I'm so here today. this morning, Governor Patterson, we have to introduce them properly. Leader, Assemblyman, every L. Joe, every who truly a personally, I am grateful to be able to go with Justice Ed. Lawrence, my Simmons, who is founder Simmons, what is as a student of history on Juneteenth is a petite moment because it celebrates freedom of the last enslaved. It is also like enslaved Africans were freedom because of the highly sophisticated they were realization we if who are doing the work of people to enjoy Riley Evers, a man fascinated duty activists did the ensuring we enjoy important to when we think of what might integration. We only really can look the passage of the 19th the 60s. Really the three pieces. The will also protect community that their rights of very least. Power as they are welcome. A real demonstrations of white power. Justice and y'all. Justice Martin said, do what is but he said, do what is do right, and let the law catch up. What and the law to and as we welcome her whole stage, she is going to y'all when we are still at a moments that made Juneteenth so relevant, that proactive, nuanced, and committed accessing, and that is still here. Here. As we start, and as we back to this stage. Far more. There are the portable access so that thrive intended for them to do. Hope while she comes back to 45 minutes. 15, right? Everybody here?